Gumby with a Pokey is the 21st episode of the 7th season of 2.5 Men. This is directed by James Widdoes, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. It's definitely not a bad episode. I don't think it's maybe the funniest, based purely on my personal tastes, but I think it definitely has a lot to offer. There's a lot going back and forth between Charlie and Alan and Jake, so I will be kind of jumping around the two parts to the narrative. I maybe could group them together, but I'm just going to go through things chronologically, as that's how I usually approach 2.5 Men. And it starts off with Charlie and Alan together. Judith calls and her grandfather has died, and he's left Alan his clock. And this is apparently because Alan was the only one to ever sit around and listen to his stories, which I thought was quite sweet. So Alan decides that he and Jake will drive up to Sacramento and get the clock, leaving Charlie, of course, on his own. And then we have a scene where it felt a little out of place. Jake is comforting Charlie and saying, I really do feel bad about Chelsea. There's some comedy in there as well, but there are nice heartfelt moments. But it's kind of like we had two intros before the theme. It was a little bit strange, and it just felt a little bit out of place, but absolutely nothing wrong with it. We're then in the car with Alan and Jake, and they have a farting competition. Alan takes things too far, and very clearly did an accident in his trousers, which is not, I don't find fart humour funny, but that part of it I did like because Alan's face just kind of dropped when he had that sudden realisation. And if there's a lesson there, the lesson would be don't have a farting competition because it might go a little bit further than you expect. Charlie's then at the pharmacist. We get to see Russell, played by the wonderful Martin Mull, and he tries to sell Charlie pot, and Charlie says, don't you need a prescription for this? So Russell brings up a doctor on the computer screen who ultimately diagnoses Charlie with glaucoma. Any reason to get the pot. So Charlie takes it, and then we're back in the car with Alan and Jake briefly, and then we're with Charlie and Berta. Now, I don't care about drugs at all. Pot comedy, it's not my kind of thing. I didn't really find it funny very much, so this episode was never going to really appeal to me. But I do like it when we get to see other sides to Berta. Mostly Berta is just going around tidying up after Charlie and Jake and Alan, grumbling about things, giving the occasional entertaining or witty passing comment. But then we see this side of her, the kind of Berta, the way she might behave when she's not working. And, well, we do get to see Berta relaxing when she's meant to be working quite a lot anyway, but it's another side to her, and I did enjoy that part of it. We're then in the hotel with Alan and Jake and the clock, and then we leave them. We're back with a very happy Berta and Charlie. And Berta leaves the room, and suddenly Charlie's exes all begin appearing, and Evelyn as well. And he's clearly hallucinating them, and it was very well executed. I realise I don't like a lot of Charlie's exes, but I don't know why. Well, I know why I don't like Chelsea, but it was really interesting to see them all popping up and Charlie's reactions to it all. I thought his reactions were really brilliant, very believable, very convincing. I've never smoked in my life. I have no idea if that's how a hallucination would play out, but I'm going to believe it. I'm going to buy into the narrative and assume that it's an accurate representation of what Charlie might experience in that moment, and certainly it was very well executed. We're then back at the hotel with Alan and Jake, and I don't like this scene. Well, I liked it to begin with, because Jake comes up with the idea of a chicken skin shop, because the skin is the best part of the chicken, and I have to agree. I'm not a huge chicken eater anyway, but if I could just order chicken skin, totally would. And then Alan, fed up with the fact that the conversation isn't going the way he wants it to, as he's trying to encourage Jake to think about his future, he goes into the bathroom and screams into a towel, which just seems like an overreaction. Yes, obviously he's getting frustrated at Jake, but to scream into a towel, it just seemed a little bit over the top. I didn't like Alan's behaviour there, but I also don't really believe it. I didn't feel like it was very believable or convincing, so I didn't really love that part of it. We're then back with Charlie. He's now in bed. He's made it to his bedroom, and there are more hallucinations, more of his exes, and they're really laying into him, asking him, why didn't you call me? And suddenly he begins to realise he doesn't call anybody back, and he starts to panic and feel really bad about this. Or maybe he's just anxious because all of these people are coming towards him, and he leaves the room, goes downstairs, goes outside, and there's Rose. And he thinks Rose is a hallucination, and he starts to apologise, saying, I should have called you back. And then I feel like it was very clear immediately that this was the real Rose. and not a hallucination. But it's established quite quickly anyway, because Berta then comes in, or I guess comes out onto the deck, and sees Rose as well. And Berta's so happy. I love happy Berta. She's so wonderful. And obviously it's established then that this is not a hallucination, though Rose keeps up the pretense that she is. And I think it was a nice wake up moment for Charlie. I also personally like the fact that it showed that if you smoke pot, it might not be a delightful experience. So it wasn't really promoting that, even though initially it seemed like it was going to help Charlie, I guess, quell his emotions, not solve his problems, but certainly put them to one side for a moment. And Berta was really excited about this. It seemed like they were really supporting this and encouraging this, but then we see it having a really negative effect on Charlie, even though maybe it taught him something important. So I like the fact that at the very least they're taking more of a neutral ground with that, which I think was a really, really good idea. And then we end the episode with Alan and Jake in the car driving home with the clock. The clock is in the back of the car and it's not tied down properly and it goes flying out the other side and smashes all over the highway. So that was, well, it was not a great trip, particularly as Alan spent the trip trying to get Jake to think about his future, and that didn't go according to plan, and now he's got a smashed clock all over the place, and presumably he would grumble about how much it cost in gas to get there and back as well. So, terrible day for Alan. Could have started out as a good day and night for Charlie, but took a direction he perhaps wasn't expecting. But at least Berta's happy, which is the main thing, because she's an absolute joy. It's a decent enough episode. I think it has a lot to offer. I think it has a lot of brilliant editing with all the different girlfriends and the pacing there and the dialogue between them all. Everything just flowed really, really well. And we got Martin Mull as well. So it may never be my favourite episode. But that being said, Gumby with a Pokey is certainly not a bad episode of 2.5 Men.